The Allied war against Milosevic. Missiles and bombs streak across the skies of Yugoslavia as U.S.-led forces launch a second night of attacks aimed at stopping Serb atrocities in Kosovo. And a dramatic story of life in a war zone told to an electronic pen pal.
This is the CBS Evening News, with Dan Rather reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. It is night 2 of the air war in the Balkans, with no sign either side is backing down. Here are the latest developments. NATO bombs and missiles hit a wide range of targets across Yugoslavia. President Clinton said Yugoslav President Milosevic has to, quote, choose peace or face further attacks. But Milosevic's offensive for genocide in Kosovo is only getting worse on the ground against the mostly Muslim Albanians. Meantime, the Serbs ordered Western journalists out of the war zone. That has made first-hand accounts of tonight's attacks hard to come by. CBS's Mark Phillips, among those expelled today from Serbia, reports tonight from across the border in Croatia.
The air raid sirens howling over Belgrade confirmed what everyone here knew, that the bombing wasn't over. For 2 nights running now, the sky around Belgrade has been lit with the flashes of explosions from incoming NATO bombs and missiles. The targeting appears to be surgical. Damaged and destroyed military and industrial installations have been shown repeatedly on Serbian TV. Very little ordnance appears to have fallen into residential areas, although the Serbs have shown what appeared to be a civilian house that had been damaged. The Yugoslav authorities are claiming that there have been 10 civilian deaths. Other estimates are higher, but none of the numbers can be independently confirmed. Civilian casualties may have been kept low by the precision of the NATO targeting and by the fact that many civilians have been taking cover in shelters. Yugoslav resistance to the bombing has been slight. Only the occasional spray of anti-aircraft fire has been seen. The Serbs apparently not wanting to fire up their anti-aircraft missile sites at this stage for fear of having them taken out. And the targeting, at least on structures, is having some evident success. It doesn't, though, seem to be damaging Serb morale or resistance from the government or from the people. In their frustration at not being able to hit back at their attackers, the Serbs have lashed out at the nearest vulnerable target, Western journalists. I'm speaking to you tonight from Zagreb in Croatia because all Western journalists have now been ordered out of Yugoslavia. In fact, I had the dubious distinction of receiving a rap on my hotel door at 3:30 this morning, followed by 10 hours of isolation and inquisition on behalf of Serb security authorities before being driven to the border and dumped on the Croatian frontier. Dan?
Mark, tell me more about what happened to you.
As I said, about 3:30 this morning, a rap at the door, someone identifying themselves as room service, which I hadn't ordered, turned out to be 2 leather-jacketed, clad, pistol-carrying members of the Serb secret police. They took me and one other reporter from the Washington Post down to police headquarters. They isolated us for the next 10 hours. Quizzing us individually, trying to find out who our contacts were, trying to find out who we were working with. A severe, not physical, but a severe bit of at least psychological intimidation.
What was the worst of those 10 hours?
The worst of it was in the course of the most severe interrogation that I received. The air raid sirens went off in Belgrade again. The temperature had been rising psychologically in the inquiry room that I was in, facing a panel of 3 secret security officers. At that point, you could see the anger rise on their faces. They pointed out the window and said, "See what you're doing to us." They called it an aggression against civilization, as if somehow we as journalists were the instrument of American foreign policy. We did our best to explain that we were just trying to report what was going on.
Mark Phillips, thanks. Take care of yourself. The U.S. Air Force is carrying out most of the air attacks, but once again tonight, the first wave of missiles came from a fleet of U.S. Navy warships in the Adriatic Sea. CBS News correspondent Richard Roth is aboard the USS Philippine Sea on the firing line in the Adriatic.
From battle stations in the Adriatic, the U.S. Navy once again was lighting up the night, unleashing a volley of 17 cruise missiles from the USS Gonzales, firing 3 more from the USS Philippine Sea a few miles away. 2 cruise missiles clearly didn't make it, shipboard observers watching them fall seconds after launch. For the sailors on these ships, this high-tech naval warfare is long-distance combat. It's impersonal, said a sailor here. The adrenaline's not pumping, but your mind's working full speed. Thinking about what? Thinking, he said, about the people on the receiving end. Richard Roth, CBS News, aboard the USS Philippine Sea.
The biggest part of the air campaign so far consists of bombers flying out of the U.S. Air Base at Aviano, Italy, across the Adriatic Sea from the Balkans. CBS News senior European correspondent Tom Fenton is there. Tom?
Dan, well, NATO officials are saying this is going to be another night of maximum effort, and judging from what we've seen so far here this evening, that certainly seems to be the case. Again tonight, a high-tech AWACS plane led the deadly procession into battle. Its mission, to track any threat to Allied aircraft. And after the brains, the brawn. Sleek stealth fighters and F-15s in a big hurry to be where the action is. After a busy night, ground crews today calmly went about their business of getting the aircraft ready to go out and do it again. Serbian Defiance is doing little to dampen enthusiasm for the task at hand.
It's a good rush. It's a nice rush. Great feeling.
Due to security concerns, the pilots are off limits. But among crew members allowed to speak with the press, everyone was very on message about the mission and the Kosovars.
If I can bring someone some joy in their life and some relief, then I'm here to do it as long as I can, 24 hours a day if I have to.
NATO might have to take that airman up on his offer. The way things are going, it may have to continue this operation for some time, Dan.
Tom Fenton in Aviano, Italy. One of the few Western reporters still on the ground in Kosovo and communicating is Leanne Martindale of CBS News Radio and Television. I talked to her late today by telephone from her hiding place in Kosovo.
Now, in the last few hours since the NATO attacks have begun, I've heard about 4 or 5 explosions. The last one shook the apartment where I am. The people here are just I think, in a real state of fear. You can hear some AK-47 fire in the air after this last explosion, and the streets are just completely dead.
Leanne Martindale reporting from Kosovo. Journalists from NATO countries were expelled from Kosovo today. Among them was CBS News veteran war correspondent Alan Pizzi, who witnessed the start of the air war from the Kosovo capital of Pristina.
A distant boom and a huge flash on the horizon were the first indications that the attack had begun in Kosovo last night. It was 3 minutes before 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. local. The explosions were well spaced out at the beginning. Then, after a long and eerily quiet pause, a sustained assault on a target to the southwest of Pristina. All power was cut within minutes of the attack. The city plunged into blackness. The hits were miles from the city center, but a military airstrip and bases are known to be in that direction. In the city, sporadic gunfire was heard. A huge ball of fire fell from the sky, drawing rounds of anti-aircraft fire. Sirens wailed, and police and army vehicles raced through the deserted streets. The official Serb information center reported that Kosovo Liberation Army guerrillas took advantage of the airstrikes to launch attacks on police and army positions. There were also reports of urban areas being hit and of civilian casualties.
Confirming any of the claims or figuring out exactly what the cruise missile struck is impossible. Journalists were confined to darkened hotel rooms throughout the night, and in the morning, all movement was curtailed.
That furtive report was our last picture from Kosovo. The Serb government ordered all journalists from NATO member countries to leave. Nearly 100 of us were taken under police escort in a convoy to neighboring Macedonia. Alan Pizzi, CBS News, Skopje.
Macedonia is hardly a safe haven in the Balkan conflict. Just across the border from Kosovo, it is home to Serbs and Albanian refugees, along with some 10,000 NATO troops. Today, Serb demonstrators attacked the U.S. Embassy and other Western offices in the capital of Macedonia, smashing cars and hurling firebombs. No immediate word on casualties. Still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, we'll tell you what NATO forces are targeting inside Yugoslavia, a modern-day Anne Frank caught in the Kosovo war zone, and we'll show you exactly how pilots prepared for the first combat mission ever for the B-2 stealth bomber.
All right, perfect. Those 2 big white blocks.
Fortunately for Millie, Dr. Espinoza was in the office early, while someone else was drafting the marketing plan to sell his home. At 11, he was making his rounds, instead of visiting his title company. At 1 p.m., he was giving Pam good news instead of checking for disclosure documents. And by the time Dr. Espinoza wrote the day's last prescription, someone else was at his home meeting a prospective buyer. You've got a life. We let you live it. We're Realtors. Real estate is our life.
1 3-layer wedding cake, done.
3? Should be 6.
Bayer can relieve arthritis inflammation. Tylenol can't. And taken regularly, Bayer can help save your life.
Ta-da!
Ask your doctor. Bayer, powerful pain relief and so much more.
Okay, item 7. Who requested separating seats?
We did. It falls under the personal space clause.
I have no problem with that.
Me neither.
Good.
Well, other than tray table custody, I think we may have ourselves a minivan.
Not so fast, folks. I believe you know my client.
Timmy?
The all-new 7-passenger, something for everyone Honda Odyssey. It's one big happy minivan.
When you serve French's traditional green bean casserole, made with the tasty, crispy crunch of French's French fried onions, it'll disappear as quickly as the holidays.
Smile, you've got French's.
American officials say the United States military is preparing for a sustained bombing campaign, if necessary, either to bring the Serbs to the peace table or limit their ability to carry out genocide in Kosovo. Today was the first day of bomb damage assessment, and military commanders said they were pleased overall with the results. CBS News national security correspondent David Martin reports from the Pentagon.
There is plenty of evidence America's most sophisticated weapons are hitting their targets, but there are no silver bullets in what the commander of the operation says is just the beginning of a methodical campaign against the Serb military.
We're going to systematically and progressively attack, disrupt, degrade, devastate, and we're going to destroy these forces.
Officials said they were satisfied with the first night's results, although the British Chief of Staff admitted not every mission was successful.
Bombs from our first aircraft lost lock once they were in flight and fell short of a target on open ground.
Most of the targets have been air defense sites, but General Clark says nothing is off limits.
President Milosevic and his military leaders should understand that there is no sanctuary for them.
The bombing will continue until the Serbs call off their offensive in Kosovo. So far, there is no sign of that.
There is no indication that there is any change at all in Milosevic's position.
In fact, the CIA has begun receiving unconfirmed reports that the Serbs are rounding up prominent civilians in Kosovo. So far tonight, all NATO planes have returned safely, and just like last night, the Serbs did not try to shoot any of them down with surface-to-air missiles. The fact that the Serbs are holding on to their best weapon would seem to indicate they have no intention of giving up anytime soon. Dan?
David Martin at the Pentagon. President Clinton has been active in helping decide what targets to hit in this second round of airstrikes. For details on that, we go to CBS's Scott Pelley at the White House. Scott?
Dan, today the president personally reviewed the targets, told his generals, quote, "that looks good," and 3 hours later the bombs were falling again. Still, his national security advisor says that so far the Serbs have only intensified their war on Kosovo.
There have been some further burning of villages, further sweep operations, some shelling into Albania. And it's obviously very disturbing to us.
Would you say that Milosevic's assault on Kosovo has accelerated because of the NATO airstrikes?
I think it has increased somewhat over the past day.
Tonight, a senior official says it may take days of bombing to stop the Serbian sweep of Kosovo. After the president's address last night, polls show public support for the bombing is thin. The challenge of educating and selling the public was evident on Mr. Clinton's face after he was off the air. Mr. Clinton made the pitch again today and said support will grow.
I believe that a majority of them will support what we're trying to do here. I also believe very strongly that it is my responsibility to make this judgment based on what I think is in the long-term interest of the American people.
Mr. Clinton demanded that Milosevic choose the path to peace. That path would include a Serb withdrawal from Kosovo and NATO peacekeepers on the ground. Dan?
Scott Pelley at the White House. In our CBS News poll, half the Americans we talked to said they approve of the airstrikes against the Serbs. But about the same number said peace there is not worth losing American lives. And you may want to note that fully 20% could not say whether they favor or oppose the airstrikes. That's the highest number with no opinion on a U.S. military action since President Clinton took office. When CBS comes back here, the closest you'll probably ever get to the super high-tech B-2 bomber, combat newcomer over Yugoslavia.
Great news about low-fat food at Boston Market. A delicious meal with our rotisserie turkey, steamed vegetables, and garlic dill new potatoes has less than 4 grams of fat, and it's just $4.99 for a limited time. So take Boston Market home tonight.
Anne Klein Eyewear by Luxottica. What do you want people to see?
I want you to see fearlessness.
The unexpected.
I want you to see you don't need words to make a statement.
Ask for the latest Anne Klein styles by Luxottica. Problem?
The doctor says my cholesterol's still too high.
What about diet and exercise?
They didn't do enough.
So?
He suggested adding Lipitor.
Lipitor, the #1 prescribed medication for lowering cholesterol. In clinical studies, Lipitor with diet was proven to lower bad cholesterol 39 to 60%, total cholesterol 29 to 45%, triglycerides 19 to 37%.
He said over 4 million people have started taking Lipitor to lower their cholesterol.
Lipitor is not for everyone, including people with liver disease or possible liver problems, women who are nursing, pregnant, or may become pregnant.
There'll be blood tests to check for liver problems.
Tell your doctor about muscle pain or weakness, as these may be signs of serious side effects.
You take Lipitor once a day.
Ask your doctor or pharmacist for more information on Lipitor and call 1-888-LIPITOR.
Well?
Lipitor did it. My cholesterol's way down.
Lipitor, the lower numbers you're looking for.
Hello, everybody. I'm Scott Couch. They have one of the toughest jobs around, but one of the most important. Tonight at 6, we'll take you inside the classroom with one of the best.
The opening round of airstrikes against the Serbs was the baptism under fire for the U.S. Batwing B-2 bomber. This two-man, $2 billion aircraft flew nonstop and round-trip from Missouri to drop their bombs. CBS's Jim Axelrod got a taste of what it was like with an unprecedented look inside the B-2's ultra-realistic cockpit simulator.
This is history. This morning's homecoming of the first B-2 stealth bombers ever to see combat.
The airplane performed magnificently. By all indications that we can get, the bombs went exactly where they wanted.
Hey, go ahead and pull back on the stick now.
Before those pilots ever dropped bombs over Yugoslavia, they spent hundreds of hours here, the cramped, dark cockpit of the B-2 simulator in central Missouri.
The graphics are good, the detail is very, very good. The button pushes, the avionics, the radar, the weapons, the systems. Every button in here does exactly what the airplane does.
In this trainer, they can simulate night, rain, high altitude. They can simulate taking off in formation, being chased by an enemy fighter. They can even simulate the turbulence felt in the cockpit when the bombs they're dropping detonate on the ground.
The realism is fantastic for us.
The B-2 pilots just back were airborne for more than 30 hours, taking off from Whiteman Air Force Base, dropping their bombs, and returning, eating and sleeping through their mission, having done it many times before in practice.
You don't fly a B-2 on a long-duration sortie until you've proven that you can do it in the simulator, including your sleep cycles. Because you can't just get in a plane and, when you both get tired, decide who's going to get a nap.
Tonight, the Air Force is busting its buttons over the debut of the B-2. And what they're saying is battle-tested confirmation that practice makes perfect. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, Whiteman Air Force Base, Missouri.
There's been a deafening explosion late today at a Chevron refinery on the east side of San Francisco Bay. The explosion in Richmond, north of Oakland, sent a towering plume of black smoke into the sky. Fire officials say the fumes are not believed to be toxic. No casualties are reported.
But I
wasn't gone long.
Your husband was right here?
I went to check the tickets.
Bingo.
What?
Have you checked the Chili Dog Express?
Oh, no. Hot dogs give Jack indigestion and heartburn.
Not this time.
What is it?
Looks like the remains of a minty fresh Pepsid AC chewable.
Chewable?
Now the first chewable that stops heartburn before it starts. Great tasting Pepsid AC chewables.
Jack?
Start living heartburn free with new Pepsid AC chewables.
Start something special.
In a car commercial, you expect to see some fine print. Well, here's some of the finest darn print you'll ever see. Right now, get 2.9% financing on all 99 Oldsmobiles. Start something special at your Oldsmobile dealer now.
When Diane initially came into the office, her time horizon for investing her money was rather short term.
It was right after college. I was going to turn over the money pretty quickly to pay for graduate school.
Since then, her objective has changed.
I've always had this kind of long-term goal in mind, which is starting my own business.
But that means actually invest more aggressively because her time horizon had lengthened. She knows herself. She knows her goals. She knows her tolerance for risk. She's learned about the tools that Schwab has to assist her in meeting those goals.
Maybe it's because we've been in business for over 160 years. Or because people have a special fondness for the color green. Or maybe it's just that no matter how old they get, they never seem to stop working. Whatever the reason, every day, people count on genuine John Deere equipment. Like the all-new LX lawn tractor, built to last and last. So if you own one John Deere, thank you. If you own 127, thanks again.
They were the visionaries. The stories behind the breakthroughs that changed our lives. People of the century. CBS News, Time 100 tonight.
Too often when viewed from afar, war seems impersonal. So we have a different perspective tonight for you on the war inside Kosovo, a war between the mostly Orthodox Christian Serbs and the Muslims of Albanian heritage who are in the majority. What you're about to hear in this report from CBS's John Blackstone is the story of a teenage girl caught in the war, a story told to her electronic pen pal here in the United States.
Across the internet, Finnegan Hamill has been pulled into the war in Kosovo.
These are very critical moments here.
Email from a teenage girl in Kosovo he calls Adona has made him feel the suffering in all those images of a country torn by war.
The village is still surrounded. I can just hear planes passing.
She's 16 years old?
Yes.
Same age as you?
Yes.
And she's an Albanian Muslim, is it?
Yes.
Adona is much like Finnegan and his friends at Youth Radio in Berkeley, California. So these American teens have given their voices to Adona's words.
Hello, Finnegan.
Reading her email from Kosovo on National Public Radio.
I really don't want to end up raped with no parts of body like the massacred ones. I wish nobody in the world, in the whole universe, would have to go through what we are.
But since the bombing started yesterday, Finnegan has received no messages from Adona. She may have joined the refugees fleeing their homes, or worse.
There's always the chance that she's been killed, you know. That's something that I have to deal with. I don't know.
Finnegan hasn't revealed Adona's real name. He fears putting her in more danger. But he was already worried that this week they may have broadcast Adona's last email.
When we were producing it, we were in tears in the studio.
My brain, my whole life, is just affected by reality. And just one picture of a dead head-cut body or a 3-year-old child massacred, you would be affected too. If you were the ones to taste this bitter and cruel part of the world, you would also understand the luckiness I feel for just being alive. Adona, Kosovo.
Children of the war. What comes next in the aerial bombardment? You will hear from one of the world's ranking authorities on air war, General Buster Glosson. Up next.
I'm gonna live forever.
I'm gonna ruin your shirt. Stay. Baby, remember my name.
The amazing new Maytag Neptune washer. With its Turbo Clean Wash system, it actually has the power to remove stains.
Say goodnight, stains.
I will live forever.
Now in a super stack.
Farming, it's America's heritage, but every week over 500 family farmers go out of business, losing their land and their livelihood. Here's a way you can help. Just dial 1010-220 when you make a long-distance call. All calls up to 20 minutes are only 99 cents. And 1010-220 will make a donation to Farm Aid every time you use it. So dial 1010-220 and you'll get up to 20 minutes for only 99 cents. And you'll lend a helping hand to some hard-working American farmers.
I've reached top speeds on Firestone racing tires. So they asked me, Ari, how can we make our street tires move faster? Easy. Put them on sale. 4 for $99. Add a new 50,000-mile warranty, and people will buy them 8 at a time. Maybe even 12. If you want to sell them faster, get a taller driver. Whoa!
The 4 for $99 sale at Firestone. These tires are going fast.
The best way to stop suffering from allergies is never to start. This is Nasal Crom. You heard right. Nasal Crom. It's allergy prevention. Nasal Crom doesn't just relieve allergies. It flat out prevents them, preventing the natural defenses in your nose from going haywire. So you can live like a person with no allergies. Nasal Crom's like nothing else. No drowsiness, no jitters, no dependency. Nasal Crom. The best way to stop suffering is never to start.
Updating tonight's war reports, a second night of heavy airstrikes is underway in the Balkans. U.S. planes and missiles striking targets across Yugoslavia. On the ground, the Yugoslav Serbs are still pressing their ethnic cleansing offensive against Kosovo Albanians. Joining us now for a look ahead, our military analyst, retired U.S. Air Force General Buster Clausen. General, give us an analysis of what the NATO forces have done so far and what they will be trying to do in the days immediately ahead.
Well, Dan, they primarily focused on the air defenses and the factories that build military equipment, and they will continue to do that to a certain extent in the supply depots. However, the Serb army, as you said, and security forces continue to burn villages and kill ethnic Albanians. So I'm quite sure that you'll see us bombing more barracks today than you did yesterday. You'll also see us taking out some of the supply line bridges, railroad bridges and road bridges to isolate Kosovo, so we then can very systematically destroy that land force tank by tank or barrack by barrack if necessary. But one of the biggest problems they're going to be facing, Dan, in the near future is not Milosevic, but the weather. The front that is currently over Italy is going to move over the Adriatic, cover Kosovo in clouds and snow starting Saturday for about 2 or 3 days. So our will be tested, but there will not be any impact to the eventual outcome if we just remain patient. We will provide that knockout blow to that Serbian force.
General, thank you. And that's part of our world and war. Later tonight on this CBS station, CBS News and Time Magazine present People of the Century. Here's a preview.
I'm Morley Safer. Great minds, great discoveries. The stories behind the century's key events, from medical breakthroughs to the bomb. Join us tonight.
CBS News is following developments in Yugoslavia around the clock. When news breaks out, we'll break in. For now and for the CBS Evening News, Dan Rather reporting. Good night.
For news 24 hours a day, CBS.com on the internet and on our interactive partner, America Online, at keyword CBS News.